everybody, and welcome to today's show of A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here on Black Star Network. And we are super excited that we are getting ready to launch into spring. Can you believe that we are already in March? Things are starting to look a lot better because let me tell you, winter was brutal, well, at least for some of us. But y'all down south who are watching, I know that y'all had great mild winters and y'all were just still out having a good time and doing what you do. But those of us up here on the East Coast were struggling just a little bit with all the snow and the days off and everything. But let me tell you, even in the midst of everything that has been happening these last few months, we have not stopped thinking about what it takes for us to just launch into what's next for our lives and consider today to be what we are calling bold and balanced. I know you're wondering, how are you taking all of the steps that you need to take? How are you going to prepare to move your life forward? How are you going to manage these kids when you have them to yourself and school is out for spring break? I know. And guess what? We got you. Today, we are going to be joined by Katrina Saunders Smith, who is our resident educational consultant and expert. We will also be joined today by the lovely Charlotte Avery, who is our family strategist. And Dr. Tierney is here today, author of the Goal Mapping Journal and Leveling Up. So ladies, let's jump right into it because today is not going to be like any other day that we have had. There is so much that has been going on in our society. We managed to make it through January. Praise God and thank him daily. We made it through February and here we are in March already. So much has been happening. So let's catch everybody up. So Charlotte Avery, talk to us about what's been happening, what's been going on. Now, remember y'all, Charlotte's going to introduce herself. And for those of you who've not met her, she has got a lot going on. But let me tell you, she is bold and balanced. Hey, Charlotte.
Hello. I am so excited to be here. My name is Charlotte Avery. I am the family strategist with a PhD in motherhood, wife of one, mom of 7, and now the owner of 1 pet. So yes, we've got a lot going on over here in the Avery household. We are preparing to have a 3rd graduate, which means now we're preparing to have 3 in college. And then we'll have 3 in college, 3 in high school, and 1 in middle school. So yes, we are in the middle of graduation pictures, graduation parties, preparing for the emerging adults to come home from college and jump back into, being a part of our team and just all the things. So, and then of course, spring break is coming and so many exciting things with that too. And so, yeah, we have a lot going on this spring.
Wow. Spring in your household sounds like there's going to be a lot going on, but you do a really good job at keeping your children and your family engaged. And tell folks just a little bit about how do you manage all of those things related to Charlotte Avery, husband, household, children, and a pet?
So I got to tell you, it is really a blending act. I know we're talking about being bold and balanced, but I don't balance, I blend. And so for me, I'm taking my time. I'm honoring what we're going to do versus what we're not going to do. And I'm just making time for all the things, making time growing my business, spending time with my husband, spending time with each one of my children, individually and collectively, because even though I have adults that are now in college, I try to make time, to have some time with them during the week every now and then, and just trying to take care of myself. I mean, we're in the springtime, so everybody's trying to get their summer bodies back. I'd like to think that I've been working on mine, but honestly, I really haven't. So just trying to keep everything and everybody together and on a schedule and being okay when the schedule doesn't pan out and just trying to really breathe it out because like I said, we have a lot going on.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for sharing. I want to bring Dr. Tierney in so she can tell you just a little bit about who she is and the work she's been doing and what life looks like for her now.
Hey, Sugar. My name is Dr. Tierney. I am the resident life coach here. I have been doing so much, so much. Even though you don't often see me necessarily out and about and doing a whole lot of things, it's because I'm minding my business and drinking my water. As Jackie said, with this, the way that this year came in, it was, but I refuse to take my foot off the gas. And I've been busy teaching my clients how to do the same. I'm the author of 2 books, Level Up, Living on the Levels God Intended, and the Goal Mapping Journal, which gives you the exact steps to help you get the winning mindset and effective habits to achieve your goals. And Sugar, that's what I've been over here doing. I have a whole new podcast. Well, it's not quite a podcast. It's not quite a coaching session. It's not quite a TV show. It's all of that. And it's on YouTube, Hey Sugar with Dr. Tyranny. And so anyone who has a YouTube channel and content creation, you understand the level of work and commitment and dedication that goes into that. So while I've been over here serving my clients with excellence, showing up on my YouTube channel, writing new content, new things that are brewing as we speak, I've also been taking a lot of naps. I've been laying low. I've been preserving my energy. I've been focusing, and I've been building and making sure that I am taking care of me so that I can be the most effective coach, the most dedicated wife, daughter, TT, granddaughter that I can be, because we cannot pour from an empty cup. So I've been over here making sure that my cup is full and helping my clients' cup stay full as well.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because I'm going to unpack that in our next block. But you mentioned something very interesting about keeping your head down so that you can begin to move forward. Can you explain for our viewers what that entails, and why would you even consider the importance of keeping your head down while moving forward?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a lot of times I think, particularly when we're in seasons where there's a lot going on, a lot of things happening in our communities, in our, our country, our homes, that can become distractions. Not to say that it's not important, not to say that it's not something that we shouldn't, we should just ignore. But a lot of times we allow a lot of things to become distractions. So it's important that we become intentional about where we put our focus, and so sometimes that means that we have to keep our head down. That means, Sugar, you have to have some boundaries to say what need does have your name on it, what need is not your responsibility, so that you can continue making progress towards what it is that you are supposed to do, what God told you to do. Because what you don't want to happen is to look up, and 25 has turned into 26, has turned into 27. And yes, Sugar, you've been busy, but you have not made any progress because you've been busy doing things that were really distractions, instead of keeping your head down and staying focused on building what it was that you were supposed to build.
I think that is some excellent advice. I think it's wisdom in action, because oftentimes we forget the necessity of just really taking care of self before you're able to move forward, and making sure you're not, what the good word is to say, to make certain that you are not emptying out your reserves on other people. So when you need you can show up for yourself. And speaking of people who know how to show up for themselves, I'd love to introduce you all to Katrina Saunders Smith. She is recently retired. I'm excited that she is in this space, and she's a young retiree, y'all. And some of you may be thinking about retiring early and what that looks like for you. So Katrina, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing now, and how are you making bold moves that are going to keep you balanced?
So thank you. I am Katrina Saunders Smith. As stated, I am a newly retired educator. I retired after 33 years serving in education as an administrator. And I think for me, as we look at retirement, we have to decide what's best for us. We're talking about being bold and balanced, right? So balance for me looked a little different. I've done a lot of things. I've been able to accomplish a lot of things, but this next step was what was next on my journey. So for me, I am now out here. I've become a CPC, working on my coaching business, and then starting to just mentor teachers that need that extra boost and need to find balance in today's educational system. So what's next? Oh boy, we can't just stay tuned, because there are going to be some exciting things coming as I try to pour into educators and parents to help support them along the journey with their children.
Now that's the bold move, coming out of the classroom into the consulting and coaching space to facilitate other people's guidance into helping them learn how to be advocates. Tell us one or two steps that you think are important to parents, and there are a lot of grandparents who are raising, children. There are a lot of surrogate aunties and uncles after, COVID and coming through the pandemic. We lost generations of wisdom. Share with us a few tips that you believe have become necessary in the advocacy space for individuals who have to, as Charlotte said, still have collegiates, high schoolers, and middle schoolers, and some elementary school parents.
So some of the steps I would suggest, and they're tried and true, and you probably heard people say it, but you really have to lean into it and do it with fidelity, is one, you are your child's best advocate. You must speak up for your child. If you are not able to attend PTA meetings, PTO meetings, you email that teacher and let that teacher know that you are concerned about your child. There's a thing that we say in education, there are helicopter parents. Helicopter parents, children get more attention than others. It's okay to be a helicopter parent. Email the teacher. Make sure the principal and the counselor knows that you are a concerned parent and that you want the best for your child. Number two, we all know children come home and they tell you school was okay. Nothing really happened. Dig deeper. Have a deeper conversation. Ask more intricate questions. What in math did you learn? What method did the teacher teach you today? Ask the science questions. Were there any interactive things you did today? How do you feel about what you learned? What impact does that have on your life as you're learning in the classroom? Engage your child at every level to push them beyond where they currently are.
I think those are some excellent tips. I'm going to ask Charlotte and Dr. Tierney to jump in there because there are other siblings involved. And oftentimes with those things, they play a part in whether or not one kid or another kid can do the things they need to do. But then also there are other adults in the house who may not necessarily agree with your methodology. So how do we balance these things? Charlotte Avery.
So, my husband and I, we are very clear that teamwork makes the dream work, and that starts with us. And so it's really important that my husband and I are on the same page when it comes to what's going on with our children as far as school, as far as their activities, as far as really everything that they're doing, because knowing that we have a big family, somebody else's activity or an event has an impact on the rest of our family. So sometimes we try to be intentional about showing up all together, but sometimes we have to divide and conquer. And when we divide and conquer, we have to be okay with that. I'm a mom who wants to be very present with my children, but sometimes I can't be everywhere at the same time. I can't clone myself. So, I have to give myself grace and be able to say, you know what? I showed up for this for Isabel last week. This week, I'm showing up for this person's activity. And so, it just becomes, like you were saying, a balancing act per se. But I mean, it's just something that we really have to do. But to be engaged, to be present, but also for parents to be on the same page. And you know what? Communication is really important. Like some parents don't feel like they have to talk to their children and tell their children things. I do. I talk to my children. I keep them engaged and I keep them involved because their thoughts and their opinions matter to what's going on in our home.
Absolutely. When we come back after the break, I'm going to jump in on this same conversation with Dr. Tierney, because oftentimes it becomes our word against theirs. It's like mama said, auntie said, grandma said, daddy said. But at the end of the day, how we become bold and balanced also means taking ownership and responsibility of those things that are ours. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now.
Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history.
Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of Black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
Welcome back, everybody. As you can tell, we have a lot to talk about. Making bold steps in our households, helping other people get on page with where we are and how we see things are supposed to move can sometimes really get us in a space of self-discovery, because being bold and being balanced also means learning who you are and how you're working. I want to talk with Dr. Tierney about that for a moment, because as we've heard, Charlotte Avery say, and as we've heard Katrina say, it is important for us to not only map out steps for ourselves, but we also need to map out those steps for other people. So Dr. Tierney, let's jump into it for a moment. I know you're the author of, the Goal Setting Journal. You talked to us in the past about what it means to level up. But there are going to be times in each person's life, as we've heard, that they have to determine what they need to do. Can you talk to us about accountability and taking ownership of your stuff? Almost said something else, but we're not going to go there today. So can you talk to us about that for a moment? Because it is important that everybody learns what it means to take ownership when we're getting ready to take bold moves.
Yeah. I think a lot of times this can be difficult because when we have not set boundaries, then we don't know truly what lane we are supposed to be in. So as Charlotte was speaking and Katrina was speaking, well, I do not have children. And so as an educator, history and higher education, I knew that was not something that I could necessarily speak on from the standpoint of as a parent, or I'm a TT, I can help do homework, but that vantage point is different from someone who is an actual parent. So I don't go into that lane because that is not my lane, and so I think using that same principle is important when we're planning out steps or thinking about what needs to happen. We have to first identify what our lane is, and so having boundaries is very critical for that. Now, you guys may have heard me, before give you my definition of boundaries. Oftentimes when we think about boundaries, we think about barriers, what they not going to come over here and don't do this and sugar, that's a barrier. Anytime if we're thinking about a boundary in relation to what someone else is not going to do, that's a barrier. You're putting up a Heisman stiff arm saying, you're not coming over here. Your focus is on them. Your boundaries are about you. It's about what you need for you to be healthy, happy, and whole so that you can reach your goals and continue on the path that has been outlined for you so that you can identify your lane. Okay. So it's the line that you draw in the line in the sand for yourself. Okay. And you have to be the one holding yourself accountable to that boundary, and so when we don't have boundaries, when we haven't outlined the lanes that we're supposed to be in, when we haven't identified what's best for us to keep us healthy, happy, and whole, when we do not have a clear vision of our goals, we haven't sat down to really get some clarity around that thing, then sugar, we out here doing all the things all the time for everybody, and so we're running ourselves low. And again, this isn't necessarily that we're doing bad things or that we're focusing on the wrong things, but the timing of that thing matters. If you're supposed to do that thing right now, all of that matters when we're talking about actually having a plan for how we are to move, forward. So the first thing I would say is, sugar, identify your lane and where you are supposed to be versus where you are not supposed to be.
Thank you for sharing that, because oftentimes veering happens. And so let's talk for a moment about causes of veering, causes of veering, because yes, sometimes it's you and sometimes it's not. And so what does that look like in an individual's life?
Well, that can be a very broad one. We can start veering over into someone else's lane because of our insecurities, meaning if I don't do all the things, if I'm not everything to everyone, then I won't necessarily feel good about myself. I won't feel needed. I won't feel like I'm confident or capable. The way that I get that is because of what I'm doing, how much I'm doing. Them needing me gives me a sense of something that I need for my identity. So when we are insecure in who we are and insecure in our own selves and who we in truly our identity, then that will start us to veer over into lanes that we necessarily shouldn't be in, and taking on more than what we should be taking on. Other times we may veer because of unresolved, emotions. Recently on, my YouTube channel, Hey Sugar with Dr. Tierney, I talked about our emotions and what happens when those emotions that we have just decided that we don't want to face, we don't want to address, or we've been walking around with some unhealed, undiagnosed dis-eases, mental and emotional dis-eases that will cause us to veer, unintentionally. We don't necessarily know that emotion is what's driving the bus. We're doing things out of that emotion, and that can cause us to veer over into other people's lanes. Tradition can have us veering over into other people's lanes. We do it because we've always did it, because that's how my mama did it. That's how Big Mama did it. That's how my daddy did it. But sugar, that don't mean that it's the right thing for you to do now, in this season, at this space, at this age, at this, place in your life. So we could be veering over into other lanes simply because we're doing things just out of tradition. So it's any number of things that could cause us to veer out of our lane, to get distracted, to get into these spaces that become the stumbling blocks of us actually moving forward, but I would say that of the ones that are coming to me right now, those are probably the top 3 that I see us committing the most.
I think that those are important ones. And I want to invite Charlotte and Katrina into this conversation, because each of us, also depending on how we were raised, what our understanding is, what our belief systems are, we have not only veered probably ourselves, and now I'm saying ourselves, those of us that are here and those of you who are watching, we veer for a variety of reasons. And so, Charlotte, can you talk about what are some of the other causes that you've seen and identified for people veering out of their lane, which keeps them from, as you said, being blended and doing a good job at melding things together in their lives, and then balance and just how they just, teeter off someplace, and then we have to go and rescue them ourselves?
So first of all, I want to give Dr. Tierney a high five and an amen, because I've never heard like high five and amen, girl. Because let me tell you, I have never until this moment, I have never heard boundaries and barriers defined that way. And that is so, so, so good. And now I'm just like, first of all, I'm about to tweet that when we get off of here. But second of all, I mean, that is like a really good aha moment. I'm like, boundaries versus barriers. Yes. Like I've always said boundaries are for me. Yes. But to know the difference between boundaries and barriers, girl, you hit that like out the park. Thank you. As far as veering, being a mom, there are so many things that can cause me and probably a lot of other moms to veer, and especially depending on the age and the season of life that you are in and the age and season of life that your children are in. Because let me tell you, so I say that I gave up mommy guilt, like after my 3rd baby, like I didn't feel guilty anymore, right? But I'm going to tell you something, even when you're trying to keep up with other people and their, what mom A is doing this her way and mom B is doing that way, you can veer off and forget the plan that God actually has for your family, because you're so busy trying to focus on what God's doing for somebody else's family. And you don't even know the price that they're paying to do what they're doing for their own household. So, for me, I'm like, okay, well, just mind your business in your own household. And, when you veer, like if you've ever driven on the road and you have veered, you're either going to crash or you're going to automatically think, oh my gosh, I don't mean to be over here, and get back in your lane, right? And so, for me, I mean, I've been there and I've done that where I veered off, but I thank God for grace and mercy and the fact that I had the wherewithal to say, you know what, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, and I need to get back over here before I crash. And guess what? Crashing doesn't just involve me. Crashing involves the other 8 people who are tied up with me, who are linked to me, my husband, my 7 children. And not only that, but it also, if I veer off and crash, it also impacts my clients, and it impacts my job. It impacts so many things. So to be able to stay focused on what it is that your purpose is, and really knowing what it is that you're supposed to be doing for yourself, but also for the people who you serve, is so, so important. And yes, those boundaries are so important. Like Dr. Tierney said, I'm telling you, I'm over here like right now, like boundaries and barriers. Like I'm putting that in my pocket and taking it with me.
I think that those are important keys, because some people you do want to keep out. I love your Heisman Trophy stiff arm, because some people are like, no, just stay right over there and everybody's going to be fine. But then there are other times where you recognize and you realize, my barrier could be too high. When you come into a season of your own and you're looking for space that you need for yourself, then there comes a time when you have to say, you know what, I can relax this barrier just a little bit, because I might be ready to let other people in. When we come back after the break, I'm going to ask Katrina Smith to start us off, because there are going to be times when you recognize and realize that you are doing the most and too much, and it can be detrimental to who you are and where you're trying to go. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Environmental disaster and systemic exploitation.
From the wildfires in California to the unexpected snowstorms in the South.
We are in the climate collapse. These extreme weather events are becoming more disastrous, and it is Black and brown communities that are often hit first and worst.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, there is a difference between barriers and boundaries. And we've talked a lot today about taking ownership of who you are, ownership of those people who live in your household and who you work with, while at the same time making certain that you take care of you. I want to invite Katrina Smith in to talk to us a little bit about what that looks like in real time. Our everyday lives can be so busy running organizations, being a part of groups, managing our households, managing ourselves, that oftentimes the lines get blurred. So talk to us a little bit about what that can look like for us as we determine when we drifted over, but then also how to help other people get back to their lane. Katrina.
Well, wow, what a segment in. How many of us have drifted over? We all could probably raise our hands. We are doing too much and the most at all the time. We are in many organizations. We're leading, we're packing lunches, we're washing the dishes, we're the car driver, the picker-upper, we got a job, we're the caregiver. And sometimes we just do too much. No is a complete sentence. And it is okay to say no. You have to realize and stop and take a moment to just breathe and say, ooh, maybe not today. It is okay for you not to do everything. We've grown up, many of us that are up here, in a time of era where we saw our mother, our four aunts, and everybody else do everything. It's exhausting. And we have to recognize we're exhausted and that we need a break. So when we look at, too much, we can start by categorizing what is necessary and what can wait for later. We have to start putting ourselves first and maybe develop some buckets. What is something I must do immediately? What is something I can wait to do? What is something I must take action on? And what is something that can wait for me? I think those kind of things, when we take a moment to sit with ourselves, helps us align and helps us with what she said, boundaries and barriers. Because, honey, I also made a little note on the side because I needed to rethink that myself. So as you think about that as a person, you have to start looking and peeling back layers. what have I been doing that I did out of habit because I've always done it and I think I'm the only one that can do it? And what am I doing that is too much and I can put away or give to someone else to handle?
I want to add something to that. And I'm going to ask Dr. Tierney to come in with Katrina because, oh, Lord have mercy. So Dr. Tierney mentioned her areas where people often get off track and off focus. And one of the things that I wrote down in the midst of writing, she had tradition, insecurities, unresolved emotions. And one of the things that I wrote down was attention-seeking behavior. And I want us to talk about this for just a moment because Katrina said no is a complete sentence, but oftentimes people can't say no because then they won't be the center of attention. But then other people can't say no because they have a fear, if you will, of confrontation. What will happen to me if I say no? How will I get in trouble if I say no? Will that person still be my friend? And honestly, as grown women, grown men, others that are watching, we still have those types of issues of wanting to be wanted by other people. So Dr. Tierney, for just a moment, attention-seeking behavior, how does that impact our ability to be bold?
So first things first, a lot of times the attention seeking behavior that we see, it comes from something that was unresolved. Maybe we didn't get enough attention as a child. Maybe one time we went to our parent, and asked them to do something and they brushed us off, somewhere along the way, either in our childhood, our teens, something happened that hit us, that did a little damage, that was hurtful. And so from that place, from that thing, from that hurt that was never healed, we now see it manifesting as attention seeking. We now see it manifesting as, oh, that like on Instagram lets me know that I'm valuable. Attention from that guy or that girl lets me know that I am worthy, that I'm enough, that I'm pretty, or whatever, fill in the blank with whatever it is that we feel that we are lacking. All of that comes from something happened. There's something we're carrying on the inside that we're not giving voice to, that we have not sat down with a coach or a therapist to say, hey, this hurt me. Please help me in this area. And so I want to make sure that we're very clear that before, because oftentimes we will kind of demonize the attention seeking behavior. Oh, you should just be doing that, not knowing that it comes from a deeper place, But when we get into that loop, when we're now on this attention seeking loop, it's like almost like that hamster wheel. How do we get off of it? How do we, start to not see that as a thing that's driving the bus in terms of what we're doing? Because if I don't do this, then I won't get the attention. How do we stop being spotlight cowgirls or spotlight, cowboys? But all of that, it turns into this whole thing that ultimately comes from, there was something that hurt you that we need to work on healing. And then once that thing is healed, you'll find that attention seeking behavior, it'll start to just recede on its own. We won't necessarily have to develop, methods or steps or things to try to stop the attention-seeking behavior if we deal with the root of the attention-seeking behavior.
Absolutely. Katrina, when you think about these things, and you mentioned something very interesting about saying no, and oftentimes people won't say no because of fear. And fear plays a big part in not being able to be bold. It plays a part in keeping us in balance, but it also keeps us in a state of flux with how we are engaging with the world. What's wrong with saying no?
Well, let me say there's nothing wrong with saying no, but guess what? You not saying no is a learned behavior, right? I think Dr. Tierney pointed out sometimes there's something in you. It could be trauma from past experiences, but it is a learned behavior. You have never see someone say no, and you're not comfortable with saying no. You also mentioned, Dr. Jacquie, sometimes we're afraid of saying no. Maybe it's that bully that you're afraid of saying no to because you don't know what they're going to say next. Like, no, I don't want to go out with you. I'd rather stay home. No, I don't want to do that. And so we have to relearn that no is okay. No is a complete sentence. No. You think about growing up and you get a plate of food and you're fixing your plate, and maybe you're like me, you don't like sweet potatoes. I know, I'm strange. I don't like sweet potatoes. But when we pass the plate around and I say, no, thank you, I mean no. And that might be unusual for someone, just saying no for not putting everything on their plate. But we have to start with being okay with no. It's all right. We have to unlearn that. And that's something we have to work on. Dr. Tierney says, you may have to get with a coach and talk about what that looks like in your life. How do you work with your spouse, your children, on your job? What does that look like? And being comfortable in the skin that you're in.
I need Charlotte Avery for a minute because we need to have a quick conversation before we go to the break. Can we unpack in a few seconds, and then we're probably going to cover this in the next block? Can we talk about grown mean girls for a minute?
Go
Listen.
Can we talk about grown mean girls? Go ahead, Charlotte Avery.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The grown mean girls. They are really, really, they're really something. But one thing that I have learned, and I'm continuing to learn about grown mean girls, is grown mean girls really are just are women who have been so damaged, whether they were damaged in their childhood, their youth, or whatever. And so sometimes they have to take their insecurities, and instead of dealing with their insecurities, they have to project their own stuff and their own foolishness on you. But yes, grown mean girls are a whole different ballgame, because, we're at a place in being adults, we're like, well, gosh, you should really know better. But what we have found is that, grown mean girls are really just damaged little girls. And so we have to get to the root of where that is coming from, so that healing can be brought to them, so that they can stop hurting and damaging themselves, because they think that they're hurting and damaging you, but they're actually hurting and damaging themselves while thinking they're hurting and damaging you.
Interesting. So I'm going to break early because I need all the 12 plus the 2 minutes I'm getting in this last block. So we're going to come back, everybody, and all of us, we're going to unpack dealing with grown mean girls. But then also I want to touch on the Superwoman myth. Does she still exist, and does she need to? We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $6.65 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $8.6 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And as you can tell, we're unpacking some of those things that are plaguing us in our workplaces, in our organizations, in our homes, while at the same time still discovering what it looks like for us to stay balanced, to stay bold, to be impactful in the places that we serve. Come on in, ladies, let's have a conversation, because grown mean girls is a topic of discussion pretty much in just about every environment in which we all find ourselves. And then our clients call us and talk about the mean girl in the next cubicle, and everybody's going back into the building and into the office. And then we've got mean girls in our organizations, in our churches, mean girls bump into us with baskets at the grocery store. It's just everywhere. And so in this society where people feel empowered, emboldened, whether they're properly empowered or falsely empowered, it's happening. So, Katrina, talk to us a moment about mean girls. And one, how do you identify a mean girl? And give us one tip to address that behavior when we're confronted with it.
Ooh, a mean girl. I think Charlotte Avery said it best. A mean girl is just a little girl who hasn't grown up and is trapped with her own insecurities. How do you identify that mean girl? You look around the room. Look at the groups you're in. Isn't that one girl that's going around gossiping about everybody? If she's talking about her friend sitting beside her, she's going to talk about you too. Mm-hmm. She's going to talk about everybody in the group. Mm-hmm. So you need to be aware of that. And so then we talk about, well, what's one tip? Drink your water and mind your business. Stay away from her. She means no good. She has to deal with her own insecurities before she can even be your friend.
Dr. Tierney.
Well, Katrina took my answer because I was going to say, how do you deal with mean girls? I don't. I do not. But here's what I would say. Pray for her. Mm-hmm. Pray for her. Because that mean girl or that mean boy, sugar, they're hurting. And hurt people. Mm-hmm. So the actions that you see, the hate that they spew, understand that if they're saying it to you, imagine what they're saying to themselves. Mm-hmm. Imagine how insecure they feel when they go home with themselves at night and they take off their Louis this and Gucci that. Imagine how empty she feels when she takes her makeup off. Imagine what she thinks of herself when her hair's not done or her nails aren't done, or how he feels about himself when his money is low or he doesn't have the car that he wants. All of those things that they are preening and peacocking about that's making them appear to be mean and haughty, it's their armor. It's this is the mask that they wear. So sugar, when you see that, don't give it power. Don't let that have power over you and your emotions and get you all twisted and turned around. And no, you go into your quiet place. I don't care if you're in the office. I don't care if you're at home. I don't care if you're at church. I don't care if you're in a grocery store. Go to your quiet place on the inside and you pray for them. And you pray that God heals whatever it is that's ailing them so that they can be free. Because once they get free, then those antics, they'll start to relax and release. Just don't get mad. Go pray.
Mm-hmm. Charlotte Avery.
So I love what everybody has said with what Katrina has said and with what Dr. Tierney has said. Sometimes I think even in dealing with mean girls, it usually, and mean grown women, it usually takes sometimes just one person to be brave and confront that mean woman. Sometimes it's really just, and when I say being brave and bold, I'm not talking about being like, girl, I need you to get yourself together. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about being brave enough and having the grace and the mercy to sometimes just pull that person aside and be like, have you ever noticed X, Y, and Z? Because I have noticed this. And then try to put yourself, like Dr. Tierney was saying, when she was talking about, the person and what they're going through, try to put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, what is really driving them and motivating them to be the way that they are? And maybe it's not your job to coach them or therapize. Y'all know that's not a word. Don't play it on Scrabble. But, maybe it's not your job to be their therapist, but maybe it is your job to help them recognize and see, and then know when to refer them to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. I think that those are very good identifiers and ways of understanding. And as you all were talking, I mentioned the superwoman. Do you think that there are times that the person becomes superwoman because of all the things that we've already talked about? They are insecure. They're looking to do the most. They want to be the center of attention. They have to be all things to everybody. I mean, that's what's been placed on us as women, that we want to make bold moves, but oftentimes we're not balanced internally or externally because we're trying to do it all. Katrina, why do we have to think we have to do it all? What's wrong with us?
There's actually nothing wrong with us. We've grown up seeing people do it all. It's by nature of our race and our gender. We believe that we have to do everything, and that if we don't do it, no one else will. And so that's a learned behavior, right? Mm-hmm. And so we are here to be myth busters, maybe. We can't do it all. We need to take that cape off, take it to the dry cleaner, and hang it up on the closet, and only take it out for emergencies. We can only do but so much. And the more we realize that there are people out there that will support us, they will lift us up, and that we don't have to do it all, the better off we will be, and the more we can attend to our own self-care.
Charlotte Avery.
I love, love, love that. So if you know me, you know that I love all things Wonder Woman. I do. Like, she and I, we've never been in the same place at the same time, but, we kind of are the same person. But let me just say, I remember having Superwoman syndrome. And I tell you what, my life became better when I actually, did take the cape off, but then put it back on in a different way. And when I actually became Wonder Woman, it's when I learned how to set boundaries, when I learned that I didn't have to do everything perfectly, when I realized I didn't have to do all things and be all things to all people in my household and, my community or whatever. I really became a better woman when I learned really how to honor my yes and honor my no and not feel bad about it. I learned how to I became a better woman when I learned, and tapped in and did my own self-work to see, why is it that, I feel like I have to say yes all of the time. And, like Katrina was saying, we've grown up seeing a lot. Our parents were baby boomers. For me, I came from a single parent home, and my mom, she was doing it all. I mean, she's amazing. And so for me, I was like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. This has to be perfect. But you know what? Perfection was driving me crazy, and perfection just doesn't even exist. And so once I realized that, I don't have to, and I can delegate, and I can teach people how to do other things. And now it frees me up to be more than my husband's wife and my children's mom. It frees me up to be, the entrepreneur that God called me to be, the true Proverbs 31 woman that he called me to be, as an entrepreneur and a business owner and an investor and all the other things, and somebody who is practicing my own self-care and taking care of myself. And so once I learned how to do that, and I'm still continuing to learn how to do that because the seasons of my life continue to shift. But once I learned how to do that, then I was able and more capable of coaching and bringing other women along and teaching them how to do the same thing.
Absolutely. For the next few minutes that we have together, let's, we haven't done this in a while, so let's give our audience a be bold. Be bold in, or be bold at, or be bold for. I think that oftentimes, even though we don't need permission, sometimes it's good to know that we can give each other permission to just take the next steps toward whatever it is we want to achieve. So pick whatever one works for you. Be bold at, be bold in, or be bold for.
Be bold for yourself.
Say that again.
Be bold for yourself. Because if you're not bold for yourself, then anything and everybody are going to try to run you. And you have to be bold for you. You have to be honest with who you are. And you have to be the one. Listen, nobody is what do you call it? oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. Nobody's a mind reader, right? So you have to be bold and take responsibility for your decisions, your choices, the things that you're going to do, the things that you're not going to do, and in honoring yourself. Be bold for you.
I'll go next. I say be bold and life adjustments, right? Dr. Jacquie alluded to, I retired early. I know I look good. I retired early. And I did that, and I took a leap of faith. And so you have to be bold in making life adjustments for you and your family. My next path, my next journey has already started, and I'm looking forward to it. But you have to step out on faith. Make sure you're in alignment with the will of God, and be bold and do it. Isn't that what the Nike commercial says? Just do it.
So I would say be bold in asking for help, asking for and accepting help. We were just talking about the Superwoman myth. My signature coaching program is actually called the Balanced Superwoman or Balanced Superman system. Because it's not just women, it's men. And a lot of times we allow social perceptions, we allow family perceptions and performance pressure to put that cape on us. You know, we're killing it over here at work, and we're killing it as a mom, we're killing it at job, we're killing it and it's killing us, you know, and a lot of times it's because we are not asking for help. Our pride has gotten in the way to where we do not feel comfortable asking for help. We see that as a weakness. Sugar, everybody needs help. Okay. So be bold in asking for and accepting help.
Thank you all for sharing. I think I would say that my be bold is be bold in every moment. Like be present for yourself, be present, you know, in the things that you want to accomplish, and take time to map out those steps and work out those kinks, because there is only one you. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Welcome back, everybody, to A Balanced Life. And today we have talked about what it means to be bold and balanced. And sometimes it's going to require you to get out of your comfort zone and to take steps and measures that allow you to align with yourself, to make certain that you're not living in what we call self-limiting beliefs, and just to give you, you know, the ability to say that I am worthy, I am capable, and I am able. So today on A Balanced Life, we're so excited that you joined us so that you could enrich your lives by the tips that we've had today. We'll see you again. Bye now.